Jeremiah chapter 34, warning to Zedekiah. The word which came to Jeremiah from Adonai, when King Nebuchadrezzar of Babylon and all his army and all the kingdoms of the earth, of his dominion and all the peoples were warring against Jerusalem and its towns, saying, Thus says Adonai, the God of Israel, Go speak to King Zedekiah of Judah, and tell him, Thus says Adonai, I am about to give this city into the hand of the king of Babylon, and he will burn it with fire, and you will not escape out of his hand, but will surely be captured and given into his hand. Your eyes will behold the eyes of the king of Babylon, and he will speak with your mouth to mouth, and you will go to Babylon. Yet hear the words of Adonai, O Zedekiah, king of Judah. Thus says Adonai concerning you, you will not die by the sword, you will not die in peace. As there were burning ceremonies for your fathers, the former kings who were before you, so they will burn spices for you, and they will lament for you, O Lord, for it is a word I have spoken, declares Adonai, covenant breaking with slaves. Then the prophet Jeremiah spoke all these words to King Zedekiah of Judah and Jerusalem, when the army of the king of Babylon was warring against Jerusalem, and against all the cities of Judah that were left, against Lachish and against Azekah, for these alone remained of the cities of Judah as fortified cities. The word that came to Jeremiah from Adonai after King Zedekiah had made a covenant with all the people that were at Jerusalem to proclaim liberty to them, so that everyone should let his manservant and his maidservant, Hebrew man or Hebrew woman, go free, so that no one should make a slave of a Jew, his brother. So all the princes and all the people obeyed who had entered into the covenant, that everyone be free, his manservant and his maidservant, and not make them slaves any more. They obeyed and freed them. But afterwards they turned around and made servants and the handmaids whom they had let go free return, and brought them back into subjection as servants and as handmaids. So the word of Adonai came to Jeremiah from Adonai, saying, Thus says Adonai, the God of Israel, made a covenant with your fathers in the day, and I brought them out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage, saying, At the end of 7 years you are to set free every man and his brother that it is a Hebrew who has been sold to you and has served you 6 years. You are to let him go free from you. But your fathers did not obey me, nor incline their ear. Now you had repented, and had done that which is right in my eyes, by proclaiming liberty everyone to his neighbor. You even had made a covenant before me in the house where my name is called, but you turned around and profaned my name, and made everyone his servant and his handmaid, whom you had let go free at their will, return, and you brought them back into the subjection to be your servants and handmaids. Therefore, thus says Adonai, you have not obeyed me to proclaim liberty, everyone to his brother and everyone to his neighbor. Behold, I proclaim for you a liberty, declares Adonai, to the sword, to the plague, and to the famine. So I'll make you a horror to all the kingdoms of the earth. I will give the men who have transgressed my covenant, who have not performed the words of the covenant which they have made before me, when they cut the calf in two and passed between its parts, the princes of Judah and the princes of Jerusalem, the officers, the Kohanim, and all the people of the land who passed between the parts of the calf. I will even give them into the hand of their enemies and into the hand of them who seek their life, and their dead bodies will be for food for the birds of the sky and to the beasts of the earth. King Zedekiah of Judah and his princes I will give into the hand of their enemies, and into the hand of them who seek their life, and into the hand of the kings of Babylon's armies who are withdrawing from you. Indeed, I will command, declares Adonai, and cause them to return to this city. They will fight against it, capture it, and burn it down with fire, and I will make the cities of Judah a wasteland with no one living. Jeremiah 35, obedience of Rechabites. The word that came to Jeremiah from Adonai in the days of Jehoiakim, son of Josiah, king of Judah, saying, Go to the house of the Rechabites, speak to them, and bring them into one of the chambers of the house of Adonai, and give them wine to drink. So I took Jaazaniah, son of Jeremiah, son of Habazaniah, his brothers and his sons, and the whole house of the Rechabites, and I brought them into the house of Adonai, to the chamber of the sons of Hanan, son of Igdaliah, the man of God, which was by the chamber of the princes, which was above the chamber of Maaseiah, son of Shallum, the doorkeeper. I set jars full of wine and cups before the sons of the house of the Rechabites, and said to them, Drink wine. But they said, We drink no wine, for Jonadab, son of Rechab, our father, commanded us, You will drink no wine, not you nor your sons forever. Also, you are not to build a house or sow seed, or plant a vineyard or own one. Instead, all your days you are to dwell in tents, so that you may live in many days in the land where you sojourn. So we obeyed the voice of Jonadab, son of Rechab, our father, in all that he charged us, to drink no wine all our days. we, our wives, our sons, nor our daughters, nor to build houses for us to dwell in, nor to own a vineyard, fields, or seed, and we have dwelt in tents, and have obeyed and done according to all that Jonadab our fathers commanded us. But when King Nebuchadrezzar of Babylon came up against the land, we said, Come, let us go to Jerusalem for fear of the army of the Chaldeans, and for fear of the army of the Aramaeans, so we are dwelling in Jerusalem. Then came this word of Adonai to Jeremiah, saying, Thus says Adonai Zavat, the God of Israel, Go, say to the men of Judah and the inhabitants of Jerusalem, Will you not receive instruction by listening to my words, says Adonai? The words of Jonadab, son of Rechab, that he commanded his sons not to drink wine are observed, and to this day they drink none. For they listened to their father's commandment, yet I have spoken to you early and often, and you have not obeyed me. I have sent also to you my servants, the prophets, sending them early and often, saying, Return you now every man from his evil way, and amend your doings, and go not after other gods to serve them, and you will dwell in the land which I have given to you and to your fathers. But you have not inclined your ear nor listened to me. For the sons of Jonadab, son of Rechab, have kept the commandment of their father which he commanded them, but this people have not obeyed me. Therefore thus says Adonai Elohim, the God of Israel, I am about to bring on Judah and all the inhabitants of Jerusalem all the evil that I have pronounced against them, because I spoke to them, but they have not heard, and I have called to them, but they have not answered. Now Jeremiah said to the house of the Rechabites, Thus says Adonai Zavat, the God of Israel, because you have obeyed the commandment of Jonadab your father, and kept all his precepts, and done according to all that he commanded you. Therefore thus says Adonai Zavat, the God of Israel, there will never be cut off for Jonadab, son of Rechab, a man to stand before me forever. Jeremiah chapter 36. Baruch reads Jeremiah's scroll. Now it happened in the 4th year of Jehoiakim, son of King Josiah of Judah, that this word came to Jeremiah from Adonai, saying, Take a megillah roll, and write in all words that I have spoken to you about Israel, about Judah, and about all the nations from the day I spoke to you, from the days of Josiah until this day. Perhaps the house of Judah will hear all the calamity that I am planning to do to them, in order that they may turn, each one from his evil way, then I would forgive their iniquity and their sin. So Jeremiah called Baruch, son of Neriah, and Baruch wrote from Jeremiah's mouth all the words that Adonai had spoken to him into a megillah roll. And Jeremiah commanded Baruch, saying, I am detained, I cannot go into the house of Adonai. So you go and read in the megillah, which you have written from my mouth, the words of Adonai in the ears of the people in the house of Adonai on a fast day. You should also read them in the ears of Judah, all coming from their towns. Perhaps they will present their supplication before Adonai, and each one will turn from his wicked way. For great is the anger and fury that Adonai pronounced against his people. So Baruch, son of Neriah, did according to all that the prophet Jeremiah commanded him, reading from the book the words of Adonai in the house of Adonai. Now it came to pass in the 5th year of Jehoiakim, son of King Josiah of Judah, in the 9th month, that they proclaimed a fast before Adonai, all the people in Jerusalem, and all the people that came from the cities of Judah to Jerusalem. Then Baruch heard from the scroll the words of Jeremiah in the house of Adonai, in the chamber of Gemariah, son of the scribe of Shaphan, in the upper court, at the entry of the new gate of the house of Adonai, in the ears of all the people. Now when Micaiah, son of Gemariah, son of Shaphan, had heard from the scroll all the words of Adonai, he went down to the scribe's chamber of the king's palace. All the officials sat there, the scribe Elishama, Delaiah, son of Shemaiah, Elnathan, son of Achbor, Gemariah, son of Shaphan, Zedekiah, son of Hananiah, and all the officials. And Micaiah reported to them all the words that he had heard Baruch reading out of the scroll in the ears of the people. All the officials sent Jehudi, son of Nethaniah, son of Shelemiah, son of Cushi, to Baruch, saying, Bring in your hand the megillah which you read in the ears of the people, and come. So Baruch, son of Neriah, brought the megillah in his hand and went to them. Then they said to him, Sit down and read it in our ears. So Baruch read it in their ears. After they had heard all the words, they turned to each other in fear, then said to Baruch, We will surely report all these words to the king. They also asked Baruch, saying, Tell us now, how did you write all these words? At his dictation. Then Baruch answered him, He pronounced all these words to me with his mouth, and I wrote them down with ink into the scroll. Then the official said to Baruch, Go hide yourself, you and Jeremiah, and let no one know where you are. Then they went to the king in the courtyard, after they had deposited the megillah in the chamber of the scribe Elishama. They reported all the words in the ears of the king. So the king sent Jehudi to fetch the Megillah, and he brought it out of the chamber of the scribe Elishama. Jehudi read it in the ears of the king and all the officials who were standing by the king. Since it was the 9th month, the king was residing in the winter house with the fireplace burning before him. Now as soon as Jehudi had read 3 or 4 columns, he cut it with the scribe's knife and tossed it in the fire that was in the fireplace until the whole Megillah was consumed in the fire in the fireplace. Yet neither the king nor any of his servants who heard all these words were afraid, nor tore their clothes. More, Elnathan, Delaiah, and Gemariah entreated the kings not to burn the Megillah, but he would not listen to them. Then the king commanded Jerahmeel, the king's son, along with Sariah, son of Azariel, and Shelemiah, son of Abdiel, to seize the scribe Baruch and the prophet Jeremiah, but Adonai hid them. Then the word of Adonai came to Jeremiah, and after the king had burned the Megillah with the words that Baruch had written in the mouth of Jeremiah, saying, Take yet another Megillah, and write it in all the original words that were in the first roll, which Jehoiakim, son of king of Judah, burned up. About Jehoiakim of Judah you will say, Thus says Adonai, you have burned this Megillah, saying, Why have you written in it, saying, The king of Babylon will surely come and destroy this land, and will bring an end to both man and beast from it. Therefore, thus says Adonai about King Jehoiakim of Judah, he will have no one to sit on the throne of David. Moreover, his dead body will be tossed out to the heat of the day and the frost of the night. I will also punish him and his offspring and his servant for their iniquity. And I will bring on them and on the inhabitants of Jerusalem and the people of Judah and all the calamity that I have pronounced against them, but they did not listen. Then Jeremiah took another Megillah and gave it to the scribe Baruch, son of Neriah, who wrote it in from the mouth of Jeremiah all the words of the scroll which King Jehoiakim of Judah had burned up in the fire, and added to them many similar words. Jeremiah chapter 37, imprisoned for the word. Now Zedekiah son of Josiah resigned as king, instead of Coniah son of Jehoiakim, who King Nebuchadrezzar of Babylon made king in the land of Judah. But neither he nor his servants nor the people of the land paid any attention to the words of Adonai, which he spoke by the prophet Jeremiah. Yet King Zedekiah sent Jehiel, son of Shelemiah, and Zephaniah, son of Maaseiah, the prince, to the prophet Jeremiah, saying, Pray now to Adonai our God for us. Now Jeremiah was coming in and going out among the people, for they had not put him into prison. Meanwhile Pharaoh's army had set out of Egypt, and when the Chaldeans besieging Jerusalem heard the report about them, they lifted the siege from Jerusalem. Then came the word of Adonai to the prophet Jeremiah, saying, Thus says Adonai, the God of Israel, thus says you will say to the king of Judah, who sent you to me to inquire of me, Now Pharaoh's army, which has come forth to help you, will return to Egypt in their own land. The Chaldeans will return to fight against the city. They will capture it and burn it with fire. Thus says Adonai, Do not deceive yourselves, saying, The Chaldeans will surely depart from us, for they will not depart. For even if you had struck down the entire Chaldean army fighting against you, and there were left among you only the wounded men, each in his tent, they would get up and burn this city down with fire. So it came to pass when the army of the Chaldeans went up from Jerusalem for fear of Pharaoh's army, that Jeremiah went out of Jerusalem to go into the land of Benjamin to claim his property there among the people. But when he was at the Benjamin gate, a captain of the guard was there, whose name was Irijah, son of Shelemiah, son of Hananiah, who arrested the prophet Jeremiah, saying, You are deserting to the Chaldeans. But Jeremiah said, That's a lie. I am not deserting to the Chaldeans. But Irijah would not listen to him, but arrested Jeremiah and brought him to the officials. The officials were angry with Jeremiah, had him beaten, and put in prison, in the house of Jonathan the scribe, for they had made that the prison. For Jeremiah went into a vaulted cell in the dungeon pit, and Jeremiah remained there many days. Then King Zedekiah sent for him and received him in his palace secretly, and the king asked him, Is there any word from Adonai? There is, Jeremiah said, and he had also said, You shall be given into the hand of the king of Babylon. Moreover, Jeremiah said to King Zedekiah, How have I sinned against you, or against your servants, or against the people that you have put me in prison? Where now are your prophets who prophesied to you, saying, The king of Babylon will not come against you, or against the land? So now, please listen, my lord the king. Please let my petition come before you, and do not make me return to the house of Jonathan the scribe, so I will not die there. Then Zedekiah the king gave a command, and they committed Jeremiah into the courtyard of the guard. They gave him a loaf of bread from the baker's street daily until all the bread in the city was spent, so Jeremiah stayed in the guard's courtyard. Jeremiah chapter 38, in a miry cistern pit. Now Shephatiah, son of Matan, Gedaliah, son of Pashur, Jukal, son of Shelemiah, and Pashur, son of Malchiah, heard the words that Jeremiah spoke to all the people, saying, Thus says Adonai, he that remains in this city will die by the sword, by famine, and by plague. But anyone who goes out to the Chaldeans will live, so he will keep his life, like the spoils of war, and will live. Thus says Adonai, this city will surely be given into the hand of the army of the king of Babylon, and he will capture it. Then the official said to the king, This man should now be put to death, since he demoralizes the men of war remaining in the city, as well as the people by speaking which words to them. For this man is not seeking the shalom of his people, but calamity. The king Zedekiah said, Here he is in your hand, for the king cannot do anything against you. So they took Jeremiah and cast him into the cistern pit of Malchiah, the king's son, which was in the courtyard of the guard, lowering Jeremiah down with ropes. Now in the pit there was no water, but only mud, and Jeremiah sank into the mud. Now Ebed-Melech, an Ethiopian official in the king's palace, heard that they put Jeremiah in the pit. While the king was sitting in the Benjamin gate, Ebed-Melech went out from the king's palace and spoke to the king, saying, My lord the king, these men have done evil and all that they have done to Jeremiah the prophet, whom they cast into the pit. He is likely to die right where he is from hunger, for there is no more bread in the city. Then the king commanded Ebed-Melech the Ethiopian, saying, Take 30 men from here with you, and bring the prophet Jeremiah up out of the cistern before he dies. So Ebed-Melech took the men with him, and went to the king's palace under the storehouse. From there he took worn-out clothes and worn-out rags, and lowered them by ropes into the cistern pit to Jeremiah. And Ebed-Melech the Ethiopian said to Jeremiah, Now put these worn-out clothes and rags under your armpits, under the ropes. So Jeremiah did so. Then they pulled Jeremiah up with the ropes and lifted it up out of the pit. But Jeremiah remained in the courtyard of the guard. Then Zedekiah the king sent for the prophet Jeremiah and received him at the third entrance of the house of Adonai. The king said to Jeremiah, I'm going to ask you something. Hide nothing from me. Jeremiah said to Zedekiah, If I tell you, will you surely put me to death? Besides, if I give you counsel, you won't listen to me. So Zedekiah the king swore secretly to Jeremiah, saying, As Adonai lives, that gave us life, I will not put you to death, nor will I give you into the hand of these men seeking your life. Then Jeremiah said to Zedekiah, Thus says Adonai Elohim Zavat, the God of Israel, if you will go out into the officers of the king of Babylon, then your soul shall live. This city will not be burned with fire, and you and your household will survive. But if you do not go out to the officers of the king of Babylon, then the city will be handed over to the Chaldeans. They will burn it with fire, and you will not escape out of their hand. Zedekiah the king said to Jeremiah, I am afraid the Judeans who have deserted the Chaldeans, lest they hand me over to them and they abuse me. But Jeremiah said, They will not hand you over. Please obey the voice of Adonai and what I am speaking to you, so it will go well for you, and your soul will live. But if you keep refusing to go out, this is the word of Adonai has shown me. Soon all the women who are left in the palace of the king of Judah will be brought out of the officers of the king of Babylon, and those women will say, Your close friends have misled you and prevailed over you. Your feet are stuck in the mire, and they deserted you. And then they will bring out all your wives and your children to the Chaldeans, and you shall not escape out of their hand, but shall be seized by the hand of the king of Babylon, and the city will be burned down with fire. Then said Zedekiah to Jeremiah, Let no one know of these words, and you will not die. But if the officials hear that I have talked with you, and they have come to you to say to you, Tell us now what you have said to the king, hide nothing from us, and we will not put you to death. And what did the king say to you? Then you will tell them, I was presenting my petition before the king, not to make me return to Jonathan's house to die there. When all the officials came to Jeremiah and questioned him, he told them with just these words that the king had commanded. So they stopped speaking of him, since the matter was not overheard. Then Jeremiah stayed in the guard's courtyard until the day that Jerusalem was captured.